Hey, real quick before the story starts, if you like lit reading, I've got something new you might enjoy. It's called New Tales Told, original short stories. Same voice, same vibe. Just search for New Tales Told right here in this podcast app. And just so you're not surprised, there may be some ads before the story. Sorry, we have to pay the bills.
A rich life isn't a straight line to a destination on the horizon. Sometimes it takes an unexpected turn, with detours, new possibilities, and even another passenger, or three. And with 100 years of navigating ups and downs, you can count on Edward Jones to help guide you through it all. Because life is a winding path, made rich by the people you walk it with. Let's find your rich together. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome to another holiday edition of Lit Reading. I'm Don McDonald. This Christmas tale features Reginald, a fictional young man born to the Victorian upper class in England who finds himself at a stuffy family Christmas party and tries to liven things up a bit. Here is Reginald's Christmas Revel by Saki. They say, said Reginald, that there's nothing sadder than victory except defeat. If you've ever stayed with dull people during what is alleged to be the festive season, you can probably revise that saying. I shall never forget putting in a Christmas at the Babwalds. Mrs. Babwald is some relation of my father's, a sort of to-be-left-till-called-for cousin. And that was considered sufficient reason for my having to accept her invitation at about the 6th time of asking, though why the sins of the father should be visited on the children. You won't find notepaper in that drawer. That's where I keep old menus and first-night programs. Mrs. Babwald wears a rather solemn personality, even when saying disagreeable things about her friends or making out the stores list. She takes her pleasures sadly. A state elephant at a Durbar gives one a very similar impression. Her husband gardens in all weathers. When a man goes out in the pouring rain to brush caterpillars off rose trees, I generally imagine his life indoors leaves something to be desired. Anyway, it must be very unsettling for the caterpillars. Of course, there were other people there. There was a major somebody who had shot things in Lapland or somewhere of that sort. I forget what they were, but it wasn't for want of reminding. We had them cold with every meal almost, and he was continually giving us details of what they measured from tip to tip, as though he thought we were going to make them warm under things for the winter. I used to listen to him with rapt attention that I thought rather suited me, and then one day I quite modestly gave him the dimensions of an okapi I had shot in the Lincolnshire fens. The Major turned a beautiful Tyrian scarlet. I remember thinking at the time I should like my bathroom hung in that color. And I think that at that moment he almost found it in his heart to dislike me. Mrs. Babwald put on a first aid to the injured expression and asked him why he didn't publish a book on his sporting reminiscences. It would be so interesting. She didn't remember till afterwards that he had given her 2 fat volumes on the subject, with his portrait and autograph as a frontispiece and an appendix on the habits of the Arctic mussel. It was in the evening that we cast aside the cares and distractions of the day and really lived. Cards were thought to be too frivolous and empty a way of passing the time, so most of them played what they called a book game. You went out into the hall, to get an inspiration, I suppose. Then you came in again with a muffler tied round your neck and looked silly, and the others were supposed to guess that you were Wee McGregor. I held out against the inanity as long as I decently could, but at last, in a lapse of good nature, I consented to masquerade as a book, only I warned them that it would take some time to carry out. They waited for the better part of 40 minutes, while I went and played wine-glass skittles with the page boy in the pantry. You play it with a champagne cork, you know, and the one who knocks down the most glasses without breaking them wins. I won with 4 unbroken out of 7. I think William suffered from over-anxiousness. They were rather mad in the drawing room at my not having come back, and then they weren't a bit pacified when I told them afterwards that I was at the end of the passage.
"I never did like Kipling,"
was Mrs. Babwald's comment when the situation dawned upon her.
"I couldn't see anything clever in earthworms out of Tuscany. Or was that Darwin?"
Of course, these games were very educational, but personally I prefer bridge. On Christmas evening, we were supposed to be specially festive in the old English fashion. The hall was horribly drafty, but it seemed to be the proper place to revel in, and it was decorated with Japanese fans and Chinese lanterns, which gave it a very old English effect. A young lady with a confidential voice favored us with a long recitation about a little girl who died or did something equally hackneyed, and then the Major gave us a graphic account of a struggle he had with a wounded bear. I wished privately that the bears would win sometimes on these occasions. At least they wouldn't go vaporing about it afterwards. Before we had time to recover our spirits, we were indulged with some thought-reading by a young man whom one knew instinctively had a good mother and an indifferent tailor, the sort of young man who talks unflaggingly through the thickest soup and smooths his hair dubiously as though he thought it might hit back. The thought-reading was rather a success. He announced that the hostess was thinking about poetry, and she admitted that her mind was dwelling on one of Austen's odes, which was near enough. I fancy she had been really wondering what a scrag end of mutton and some cold plum pudding would do for the kitchen dinner next day. As a crowning dissipation, they all sat down to play progressive Halma, with milk chocolate for prizes. I've been carefully brought up, and I don't like to play games of skill for milk chocolate, so I invented a headache and retired from the scene. I had been preceded a few minutes earlier by a Miss Langshan Smith, a rather formidable lady who always got up at some uncomfortable hour in the morning and gave you the impression that she had been in communication with most of the European governments before breakfast. There was a paper pinned on her door with a signed request that she might be called particularly early on the morrow. Such an opportunity does not come twice in a lifetime. I covered up everything except the signature with another notice, to the effect that before these words should meet the eye, she would have ended a misspent life, was sorry for the trouble she was giving, and would like a military funeral. A few minutes later, I violently exploded an air-filled paper bag on the landing and gave a stage moan that could have been heard in the cellars. Then I pursued my original intention and went to bed. The noise these people made in forcing open the good lady's door was positively indecorous. She resisted gallantly, but I believe they searched her for bullets for about a quarter of an hour, as if she had been on an historic battlefield. I hate traveling on Boxing Day, but one must occasionally do things that one dislikes. Saki, the pen name of British author H. Munroe, loved skewering the upper class by wielding the weapon of characters like Reginald, who appeared in several of his short stories. Thanks for listening to Lit Reading. If you like what you hear, please spread the word this holiday season. As a matter of fact, you can check out all of our Christmas stories in one handy location, and that is litreading.com/Christmas. And also, if you like what you hear, please leave a review at Apple Podcasts, because that's truly the best gift you can give me this Christmas season. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Don McDonald.
From Adams Morgan to Anacostia Park, we all want safer neighborhoods. But what does real safety mean? Real safety means preventing crime before it happens. By having police work with communities to disrupt cycles of violence, by supporting families with stable housing, and providing more mental health and drug treatment. We know that adding more police and locking up more people doesn't make us safer. Real safety means investing in the things that help prevent crime. Learn more at RealSafetyDC.
Hey, Fidelity. How can I remember to invest every month?
With the Fidelity app, you can choose a schedule and set up recurring investments in stocks and ETFs.
Oh, that sounds easier than I thought.
You got this.
Yeah, I do. Now, where did I put my keys?
You will find them where you left them.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Thanks for listening all the way to the end. You're officially a story finisher, and I appreciate that more than you know. If you're curious what else I'm up to, check out one of my other podcasts, New Tales Told. It's brand new, original short fiction written and narrated by me. Just search New Tales Told in this app. And thanks so much for listening to Lit Reading, now part of the Storyverses channel at storyverses.com.